Hello everyone, I'm Stephen Linklater, the Claims Director at Ageas. Welcome to Insured Insights, a series of videos where we talk about the hot topics in insurance today. And I'm delighted to be joined by Jonathan Hewitt, CEO at Thatcher Research. And today's topic is driving the future. We've got a big button between us. Now we are going to hit this button. It's going to randomly generate a question for us that we will then both have a go at answering. Ooh, this is a big one. What will the world of driving look like in 10 years' time?
I don't think it would be dissimilar to what we see now. I think the trends that we see now will increase over time. But again, it's across this assisted, automated, connected, electrified agenda. I think we will see increasing driver assistance systems. And some of these things becoming perhaps a bit more ubiquitous. I don't think we'll see self-driving cars. I think we might see some interesting automated trials in city centres, but closed loop. But I think we'll see greater assistance and safety-related assistance systems coming to the vehicles that we will be acquiring. So I think that's one aspect. Our cars will become and are becoming more connected. You know, all new cars are connected to the internet. So I think our cars will get better over the ownership cycle that we have. Software updates, enhancing infotainment systems, safety systems potentially. I think that's very exciting, and I hope consumers will keep up with updating their cars just as they update their mobile phones. We need to be very focused on potential cyber threats, as an example, as I think the industry is, and then of course new powertrains. So we've talked a bit about electrification, but hydrogen fuel cells, as an example, and what we're trying to do. A recent project we were involved with one manufacturer asked Thatcher to come in at the very early stages, pre-prototype, to help think about repair, safety, and those aspects were then folded into the prototype that was launched. So we're starting to get ahead of the curve, and I think that's the really important thing for an organisation like Thatcher Research, to be looking over the horizon at what's coming, and then make sense of it from an insurer and a consumer adoption perspective.
Yeah, okay. No, I agree with all that. I think connected car is a big area because that raises some questions for insurers. One, it's a real positive because you get access to some very rich data. If you think of telematics, it's been around for a long time now, probably has quite muted growth, whereas these cars now are going to provide that data. Consumers seem more willing to share their data for exchange in terms of benefits. So I think definitely an opportunity, but also some questions to be answered. I think the cost is going to go up, so these cars will crash less. I think even now 95% of accidents are human errors, so we can have less accidents, which is great. But the point is they're going to be more expensive to repair. So I think I saw an example only recently of a headlamp that was almost £20,000 because it had all the sensors in there. So it can be a minor impact, and just for that headlamp.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that the repair challenges are going to increase. Whether it's about the batteries, whether it's about the mega castings, whether it's about the bonding mechanisms, whether it's about increasingly sophisticated spare parts and headlamps as an example. Data, as you said, I mean, it's been said many times, but I think it works well in this conversation that data is the new oil. Data will give us the information that we need to make the best underwriting and pricing decisions, the best FNOL decisions, and the best claims decisions, and I think it's going to be the insurers that really embrace that data journey, that are the ones that are successful at the end of the 10 years.
Right, Jonathan. Really interesting conversation. I think we're time for one more question.
Okay, great.
That's okay.
Great.
So I'm going to hit the button one last time. So, what is our last question?
We could probably keep going for many hours, but I think the audience may find that slightly wearing.
And we've ended on a long question. Right. You both represent organisations which are heavily involved in looking at the future and making predictions based on data. What do you think the challenges and opportunities are for the insurance industry in 2024? Okay, well maybe if I just start with the number one issue for insurers, I think, which is inflation. So there's been lots of coverage on this. 2022 is probably our peak year for inflation. It's been well trailed, the reasons for that. So we had the Ukraine conflict, put real pressure on parts availability, supply chain. There was issues in terms of semiconductors for new vehicles. So new vehicles sales fell. That then increased the price of used cars, which then flows through your claims costs. So lots of factors. We are seeing some positive signs in terms of the trend. It's coming down this year, but still high. So again, it goes back to, for us, how can we increase the use of recycled parts? Not only does that help with cost, but it also speeds up the key-to-key times. How can we look at more innovative repair mechanisms with our repairers? But it's fair to say that that's still remains our probably our number one challenge. So maybe if we start with the challenges and then we'll come back to opportunities.
Yeah, so I think the first thing to say is we have changed our positioning as an organisation. Recently, we now present Thatcham Research as the automotive risk intelligence company, because we think there are significant challenges in understanding risk going into 2024 because of all the new things that are happening. So, how do we deal with these challenges coming from assisted, automated, connected, electrified vehicles? So we're very much looking through the lens in terms of the key insurance perils and challenges, if you like, from a safety perspective, as we have always done, from a security perspective, and from a sustainable repair. And this idea of sustainable repair being, let's try and repair these vehicles, understand and have the right methods available rather than replacing. And then how do we underpin that with data which ultimately helps insurers and other players in the broader insurance ecosystem make better, more intelligent decisions. And then I think the other key thing is the new entrant vehicle makers. So, it's slightly outside of 2024, but in 5 years' time, we're told 30% of new vehicles are going to be coming from the Chinese market. So it's very important to build relationships with the new entrant vehicle makers, and to get them on the journey with us about safety, security, and sustainable repair.
Yeah, absolutely. Over-the-air updates means that the car you insure on the 1st of January can be a very different vehicle by the time it comes to renewal. So I think that does present a challenge, which is how do insurers understand the change of that vehicle, which updates have been taken on by the customer. So often they're improvements, safety features, but I think if you look at Tesla, I saw a stat last week where in a year they'd had 80 changes in a vehicle, 80 upgrades. So it's amazing. So I guess that is a challenge, which comes back to data, working with motor manufacturers. But it's a very different world where we've used to just a vehicle is a vehicle, where it's changing over time. There's a big data opportunity for insurers. These cars are more and more connected now. As I said, consumers seem more willing to share their data. So that's a real positive for insurers. How do we access that data? How can we then understand the risk on a much more granular basis? We're very well set up to deal with this data. I think also an opportunity to work closer with the manufacturers. So I think you're likely to see more partnerships there. Yeah. I know that's something you've been doing a lot of work with, and as you say, there's going to be probably the manufacturer market will change as you get more of these cars in from China. Probably what we're seeing with electric cars is some manufacturers have been ahead of the curve versus some of the others.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, Stephen. I think back in the day, the development cycle of a vehicle was 7 years. Yeah. And we were proudly told a couple of years ago that one of the Japanese manufacturers had reduced that to 5 years. If you talk to some of the Chinese vehicle makers, some of the Korean vehicle makers, they've got that down to 2 years. So the opportunity through data to drive change in the design, manufacture and build of vehicles is greater than it's ever been before. It does come back to data. I think the industry has significant data assets. We talk a lot about group rating, but it's the data set that underpins group rating in our Plaza platform, which we are enhancing to understand vehicles in an ever more granular way, supported of course through the testing work that we do. So understanding how vehicles perform in crash test passive testing, but also the big investment that the industry has made through Thatcham in creating our test facility at Gampston. It's all looking through that lens of what data do we have now, and what data can we capture going forward.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So look, I think we've probably got to the end of our time. So that was a really interesting chat. Thank you very much, Jonathan, for joining us. I hope everyone's enjoyed that and you found it informative and useful. And all I would say is look out for the next edition we have coming up shortly. Thank you very much.